Hi, I'm Michael Bracco, and this is Monsterfy, a live character design demo show where I, Monsterfy, as many things as possible on this giant canvas. Today's theme is Mermaids. So, why mermaids? Well, actually, they're like my daughter's favorite thing in the whole world right now. And she's about to celebrate her 8th birthday. And I really want to make it special, especially since, well, now that we're still on lockdown, she can't exactly have a normal birthday party. So all this week, I've been making all sorts of mermaid-themed decorations and drawings and artwork, but it's all really cutesy and for her. So today, as my personal release, I'm gonna monsterfy the heck out of some mermaids. So we're gonna start by talking about how to draw a mermaid, and then we're gonna dive a little bit more into how to monsterfy it in different ways. Why don't you say, let's get started. Before we get around to actually trying to turn anything into a monster, we need to figure out what exactly it is it takes to just draw a mermaid. You know, the first thing that comes into your mind when you think of mermaid, whether that's a mermaid or a merman, it doesn't matter, but I do want to go over some basic structures of at least the upper half of a human being. So as usual, I have my colored marker and I have my black ink, okay? I'm gonna put this aside for now because I'm gonna do some quick sketching. On the basics of a person, I always like to start really basically with an oval for a head. Make sure to get a neck. And this doesn't matter if it's male, female, whatever. I like to get kind of like a rectangle for a chest. I like to hint at the rib cage. Now I like to leave out the stomach here because I like to continue the spine through it. I've got a shoulder line here. I want to add in a hip line, which is usually about the same width as the shoulder line. Of course, we have the pelvis, and we're going to ignore the legs since this is mermaidish, mermanish, or murish, if you would. Up here, I want to make sure I mark where the shoulders go, and they're going to be at the top corners of the chest, where that line of the clavicle reaches into them. So really, these two lines are really important in what they do in order to show movement. So of course, we have an upper arm, an elbow, a lower arm, a wrist, and a hand. An upper arm and elbow, a lower arm, a wrist, and a hand. Now for down here, I can be a lot more freeform, a lot more open, totally fine. So, I'm just gonna get this kind of swoosh, and they're doing the same thing, but they're getting closer as we go down. And then I like to, for the fin, kind of have these pinched ovals to make each one of these. Right now, you can very easily see the structure, but we don't really have much to go off of. And although from this, I could easily go forward and start adding features, I want to give you a few clues. All right, so in the face, I always like to cut it into quarters, right, to find the middle, okay? I like the eyes to be football shaped. The nose is a U with 2 parentheses. And the mouth, of course, I always start with the opening and then I add lips after the fact, okay? I'm gonna lengthen the chin. Haven't thought about much of anything and bring the neck down. Have some ears in, and I'm gonna leave it at that. That's plenty for me right now, okay? For this, now I can start thinking about the shape of the actual body. Because of my age, I was like 10 years old when The Little Mermaid came out. So I'm thinking, first thing when I think of a mermaid, of course, is a woman. So I'm gonna kind of give like a waist and a hip line. I'm also going to think about the chest and the covering. So of course, the first thing I think of is seashells. Now, I'm gonna totally break this down and do some weird, wacky things with it over here. But for right now, I'm sticking with what I know. So I'm gonna add in some shapes for seashells. Then I just make sure that the arms are the right length and some shapes. They don't have to be perfect because this is just about ideas and structures. So I'm gonna go in and I'm actually gonna start with some hair. And I always think of like the big flowy hair. So I don't like to draw hair as like strands. I always like to draw it as a shape. So I'm going to start with like a big swooping bang line. Like that. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to tuck this one behind the ear. And then from this right here, this is the part line. I can have some fun with some swooping hair. Add in shapes behind it. I'm not going to fill it in all the way because I don't want to mess up the room I have for my arm. I can always go back in and add the hair. So I'm going to get a jawline in. Okay, I don't think I need to add the ear on this side. I think it'll get covered up, but I definitely want it on this side. For the eyes, I don't want to forget eyebrows. People forget eyebrows all the time. I'm using the shapes that I started with, but I am adding just other little shapes to make sure that I'm trying to show the feminine face here. Okay, I like a squashed M for the upper lip. So there we go. Get in the neck, out to the shoulder. I always like the clavicle. I feel like it gives a lot of structure to the body. Okay. I'm gonna come down, get the waistline, belly button, and then for shells, I'm gonna keep these very, very simple. It's just two, like almost like a trapezoid with rounded lines, and then this arcs up with some lumps to it. Bring it like that, and I get the bottom of the shells here, connecting line, and repeat on this side. So now I'm going to get in some arms. I'm just going to start drawing here and talking about it as I go. But honestly, what I really want to say is it's good to be doing this again. As a lot of you know, I'm a teacher, and I kind of went on a bit of a Monsterfy hiatus because I had to start teaching again. Plus, once kids started going back to school with all this like through the computer teaching, they didn't really spend as much time with this. So the viewership went down a bit, and that's okay. It gave me an excuse to kind of really focus on what was really important to me at the time, which was my teaching, which is what this is all about anyway. But now it's summer vacation, which for one makes it perfect time to talk about mermaids, and two, hopefully, means that this is going to be a great way to artfully kill some time while you're stuck at home for the summer. All right, so now that I've got that, oh man, she's kind of fabulous. I'm going to get some more hair in. I'm going to start, I talk about this a lot in the show, but add in some black where the hair goes behind the head to add some contrast. Now, for the tail, I always think about the fact that on the tail, we have this kind of weird, I don't want to call it a fin, but there's this weird tissue that's always up around the waist like a belt line. And then, I'm just really going over what I already have here, making this nice and like curved while bringing it together down at the bottom. Okay. And then when I do get down here, I just want to make sure I get these shapes nice and pointed in the way I want. But I can also get a little bit of texture to make them feel like fins. Whether that's in the way of lines or dots is totally up to you. Okay. I can even go in, I'm going to get a lot of ink out of my brush so that I can get some real small scales, which are just U's that lay under each other like bricks. And I'm not going to U the whole thing. I'm not going to scale it all, because that would be a waste of time, and then it just looks too busy. What I can do is I can group smaller bits of scales, some singles, some small groups, and it gives an overall texture. So here we have a finished mermaid. And this is kind of the prototypical mermaid that I think of first in my brain, which means it has been the same thing for a long time, and now it's right for Monsterfy, okay? So I'm gonna go over here, and I'm gonna get my colored marker again, and I'm immediately gonna see how I can turn this into a monster. Number one, I can change the shape of the head and really gesture it in, okay? I wanna find a way to combine this with a fish a little bit differently, okay? For instance, forget the hair. Let's start thinking about some fins, and I'm partial to a mohawk. I'm gonna kind of go down that road. Forget these human eyes. Let's start thinking about what the eyes would look like of a fish combined with a human face. Now, I'm gonna start just gesturing in the body form. I'm using the same kind of things that I used over here, but I'm starting to think about like other fish parts, the fins, the gills, and I'm really moving my marker fast, trying to figure out how this is gonna go. So I think I'm gonna start with the eyes, okay, and build my way out from there in the face. Big eyes, they protrude from the face, almost like an octopus. Octopus was the theme of the very first Monsterfy episode. Makes sense. If you know me at all, I love octopuses. Okay. I'm already starting to like change things from the original, but I do want to make sure that the eyes are big and like stare into your soul. I don't necessarily want this monster to be an evil monster, but just maybe something a little bit less half human, half fish than what we think of. Okay, a little bit more of a mixture. Okay, so I'm going to change the shape of the cheeks and chin. I'm going to give it a nose, but instead of a human nose, I'm just going to give it like just some access holes for it to be able to smell. I don't even think that they can smell underwater, or a fish can. I don't know how that works. And then of course, gonna make him kind of happy. But let's give him a little bit of a devious look on his face. There you go. I can make stalks on the head and then connect them with webbing, okay? Because right now I want to work on how the neck kind of comes down into the shoulders, and I really want to get gills, how this mermaid is going to breathe underwater. And so I'm gonna bring it out and then bring these lines in. And this is gonna be that slit for a gill. And you can see I make this like long slice and then in again. All right, so we've got some gills. Okay, then I'm gonna bring down a little bit of the torso, and I wanna bring in some ribs. So, man, he's looking weird, and if we compare these two, they're just such different ideas. And that is totally the point of this. It's coming up with ideas. How can we make a cool mer character? Okay. So now I'm going to get into this. I'm going to give it an upper arm. And then I'm going to pull this around for the elbow. But I want to have some fun with, they're going to use their arms to kind of push off as well as their tails. So I'm going to, of course, give him webbed fingers. But what if, at the wrist, we also put in some of these stalks that we put in the head? So we're repeating something we've already did, but to use it in a totally different way. And then this can be how he pushes off. I keep saying he. How they push off, I have no idea. Okay. And again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to really web up the fingers for this mer character. Add a little texture. All right, yeah, super fun. Okay. Oh man, he's all long and gangly, which I don't know why that's what I picture, but that's what's coming up here. All right, next. Let's finish this off here. Now, it never made sense to me that we have this like human skin and then scaly skin with this thing here. So I'm going to have some fun just not putting something there. But I want to make sure that this looks like it's something that can really be controlled and has a lot going on. So I am going to start adding in some fins. I'm kind of digging on this thing. We've come down to the tail. And so let me just kind of work in the same capacity that I've been doing. Oh yeah, look at that. Totally different than our last Mer. Now there's still something missing. And I think that things feel a little blank here. Over here we had this great scale texture, and we could do that again. We can use the same thing over. But I like to think about the markings as different. And I think we actually have something right here. There's a lot of fish with different spots and stripes, and I think we've already started the stripe pattern, and there's a lot of lines. So let's continue that. So I'm actually going to draw in some stripes to really make him stand out, right? Very recognizable. And if you see him swim by in the water, you're going to see these things, and you're going to be like, uh-oh, what the heck is that thing? And I've talked about this before, but I'm using what's called cross-contour lines, where these lines curve to show the roundness of this strange creature. Here is our first monsterfied mermaid. I think it's kind of cool and beautiful. It's not really monstery or scary. I think that means we need to make something horrible and scary next. If you ever look up like deep sea fish, like the things that are like down in the Marianas Trench and like really deep, you see things like anglers and all these other crazy things, and I think I want to go with something like that. So I'm going to start with just a big old shape and a really different body type. I don't even know what I'm doing here. I want to give it like just a big gaping maw of a mouth. Oh man, okay, I'm starting to get an idea here. All right, so I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's me working at ideas and allowing my pen to just travel. And as it's doing that, I'm thinking, I'm talking to myself. It's a great way to think through an idea. Because as you can see, I mean, you can still see the blue, but it's not the main part of the drawing, right? The drawing that comes through, these are like character lines. These blue lines are like a lot of personality. But it's what ends up that's really interesting. All right, so I'm going to start again with the eyes. I'm trying to think now of what's going to make this scary. And I think one of the things I can do here is I can start making this feel a little bit more human in certain like random places. So here I'm going to do it in the eye. And I'm going to make this I'm going to attempt to make it at least a very human-looking eye. Okay? I might even give it an eyebrow. Oh yeah. Ooh, that's weird. Because why not? Okay. Over here, the same thing. Want to give this some sort of like worked version of a human mouth. So I'm going to give it lips. Yeah, okay. And that means down here, I'm also going to give it lips. And I want the lips to feel somewhat human. So I'm thinking about the shape and how it gets kind of full and plump down here. Okay. But one of the scariest things I can think of are when you can see, and it's like this, like if you ever see a dog get angry, it's not so much that it's showing you its teeth, which is darn scary. It's showing you its gums. When they're curling their lip back so much that you can see gums, that's when I get terrified. Oh yeah, that's horrible. Which, you know, that's what I'm going for. I'm gonna go and I want to add ears. I want it to feel a little underwaterish, but I don't want to get rid of this, like everything has a little bit of a humanness to it. So I'm giving it almost like an elf ear with this extra point. All right, so now before we get into the body, I think I started something with the eyebrows that I want to make good on. This thing has hair, all right? And if I think of like Poseidon and stuff like that, you think of these characters that have these Greek myths that have these big old beards. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna bring in some more of this fish body, and I wanted this thing to be big and gross and muscular. And maybe even like veiny a little bit. So to draw veins, you just want to get, let's get some up here. Like your line, you want it to get thick and thin in random places and split off, almost like tree branches, but more organic, you know, like they're swimming around and there's plasma that they're moving through. And you know what? I started making it into a claw, and what ended up happening was I had to turn it back into a fin. And I did it by accident the first time, but I think I really like it. I ended up with these weird hands with this like big honking middle finger that the webbing kind of comes off of. And it's really scary. He's grotesque. So really, one of the great things about doing stuff like I get to do on Monsterfy is we take something that everybody knows and has a familiar image, and we've already come up with 2 different ways to do this that are nothing like it, and hopefully really inventive. Hopefully you're drawing along with me, whether that is drawing what I draw or coming up with your own monsters. I really hope that you'll share them with me and that I can actually put them in a future gallery. All you have to do is take a good picture of your artwork and email it to me at monsterfytheworld@gmail.com. But now, right now, it's time for our final design. Mermaids are always human up top, fish on the bottom. Who's to say we can't reverse that? What if instead of human on the top, it's a fish on the top? So I just, in making decorations for my daughter's birthday, had her helping me out. And I was showing her some funny tricks to drawing fish. So I'm actually going to start there and show you some of the tricks I have. And then I'm going to Monsterfy it and turn it into an actual thing. I'm going to start with some, almost like, you know, this is a fish that's going this way. So some parentheses, okay? Then I'm going to put an eye. Remember, it's looking up. And some gills, okay? Now up here, that means that you can add a mouth, you can add some fins, and then, you know, normally it would go like this, but in our case, well, I'm gonna just kind of go and see where it takes me. So this is Monsterfy, so I'm not gonna do something as simple as this. I'm gonna have some fun making it horrible and evil. I'm going to add a little bit of, you know, texture in here. Okay. Instead of giving it these adorable lips, I'll still give it the fish lips, dried out and crackly, because it's now on land. And I'm going to give it this evil smile. Oh man, this is way scarier than I was actually thinking it would be. Which, you know me, I'm totally okay with way scarier than what I was actually trying for. So now we're going to add the human parts. All right, so I'm going to start with a belly button right here, because why not? All right, and then let's see. I don't want any nudity, so I'm gonna give him the scariest outfit I possibly can. And of course, that is some cut-off jorts. No! Just like that. I'm weirding myself out now. And then let's give it some big muscly legs. actually really enjoy drawing feet. I'm not used to drawing them this fast though. And then on this side, and like I said, I really enjoy drawing feet, but I also don't want this to just do the same thing. So let's add another detail over here, really make this a little different. Mermaids are originally, at least to my understanding, and I could totally be wrong with this, but they are a pirate legend. And so, let's give this reverse mer a peg leg. Oh man, that's horrific. But here we have it. We have 4 mer creatures, from the prototypical mermaid to this thing to oh my god to I've got no words. So again, please draw along with me. Send your drawings to monsterfytheworld@gmail.com. I'm Michael Bracco, and this has been
Monsterfy.